Hi everyone. Thank you for registering for our webinar on impact of COVID-19 on business valuations. We'll be starting in another 2 minutes. So I would like to introduce, firstly, thank you for registering for the webinar. And it's going to be a great webinar, I'm pretty sure. I'd like to introduce Masters India initially for those who are not aware. So Masters India is a GST are looking for innovative software solutions for complex problems faced by businesses across the globe. We are fulfilling our mission by offering tax and financial automation products to enterprises. Right? So I'll just briefly, quickly introduce the company that we've introduced. So, corporate professionals is a group of dedicated, research oriented, and skilled professionals pioneer in delivering innovative and value added corporate business solutions. Two of their group companies, Corporate Professional Valuation Services, is India's sixth IBBI registered valuer entity, and Corporate Professionals Capital Private Limited is a SEBI registered Category 1 merchant banker offering investment banking, transaction advisory, corporate funding, and complete valuation services in securities and financial assets. Additionally, they also perform plant and machinery and land and building valuations and business modeling services through a team of highly skilled professionals across India and abroad. They have achieved a milestone of executing more than 1,000 valuations for securities and financial assets worth $50 billion in different contexts and across more than 25 industries such as agriculture, auto and auto ancillary, e-commerce, education, electricals, engineering, financial, NBFC, and others. So you can also access the firm's brief profile in the handout section. The handout section has a corporate professionals profile summary. You can download it, and you can also download the PPT for the webinar that is going to be shared here. That is going to be presented by both Sanchit and Manoj, sir. And I'll quickly introduce Sanchit and Manoj sir. So Manoj sir is the partner and head of M&A transactions and valuations at Corporate Professionals. He has an experience of around 15 years uh, in in the area of M&A transactions, valuations, and corporate structuring, and has spearheaded over 600 such transactions. He's also a member of National M&A Council of ASSOCHAM, Insolvency Law Committee of PhD CCI and Company Law and Corporate Governance as well. He has addressed numerous programs organized by various forums such as ASSOCHAM, ANMI, CKF, ICSI, ICAI, ICA, and Nalsar Law University, GIMS, and APJ School of Management. Quick introduction of Sanchit also. Sanchit is head of deals and acquisitions and valuations at Corporate Professionals. He's a chartered accountant and possesses a diploma in strategic management from LSE and Paul Science. He has also attained certifications in mutual funds and equity derivative from NSE Academy. He is presently director of corporate professionals and heads deals and acquisitions. He has a past experience in working with Infosys as equity research and equity research analyst at CapGrow Capital Advisors. I think you guys can start the presentation.
Thank you, Sakshi, for the elaborated introduction and of both of us.
Thank you.
So, as Sakshi has told, we are from Corporate Professionals, which is a group primarily based in Delhi. We have Mumbai office also. So, it is around 18 years old group having various verticals. And as Sakshi has rightly said, we have merchant banking for last 12, 13 years, and we are also the sixth registered valuer entity in our group. So we are doing legal and financial service under one roof, and have served more than 1,200 corporate houses across India, and have experience of over 10,000 transactions during this 18 years. So I think without taking much time to all these things, I think we start with the valuation related presentation. So guys, I think this is a very unique time when one side the economy is going is in trouble world over due to the pandemic. Valuations, businesses are suffering due to pandemic. Many businesses got shut down also. Small businesses are in bad shape. But another side, the capital market is booming. Equity capital indexes like Sensex, Nifty's are at all-time high, and also all the IPOs are coming. Many of the IPOs are coming. Number of IPOs are much more than any of the last 5 years, and they are also able to raise a lot of fund. All IPOs are getting oversubscribed. So, and investor has, there are numerous M&A transactions which are also in pipeline. So both is totally contradictory. So what is the basis of these valuations? Many of the companies are trading right now at much higher multiple than any ever before. So what is the reason? So the reason is the perception. If something is at the bottom, it has to go up. That is the situation here, and hence it's very high valuation. So by this, it is very clear that valuation is not a science. It cannot be based on fixed numbers. It is more about perceptions, more about the what people feel about it. So those things are more important than any numerical calculations, and that is what is the basic understanding we all should have when we are talking about valuation. So during this session, we are covering various aspects, a brief history of valuation in India, then what are the requirements whenever there is, where the requirement of valuation comes, what is the regulatory landscape in India with respect to the valuation, what are the guiding principles for a valuation, and then what is the valuation across the life cycle of any business, then which are the basic approaches of valuation, then valuation standards, and then we will cover impact and trends of and challenges relating to valuation during this COVID period. We will also try to give some guidelines with respect to different industries, what impact the COVID might have on those industries, and how those valuations are getting factored in. Then we will briefly also discuss, I think Sanchit will elaborate, valuation profession, which is now growing. So how new budding professional can take valuation as an exclusive profession for their career. So those things we will discuss during this whole session. So what is valuation? Valuation and we understand valuation and price are two different things. Many of the valuations are done, which is determination of the fair price, but the valuation is more about the perception. So Warren Buffett, which is the well-known world-over investor, which his quote is very famous: "Price is what you pay, and value is what we get." So valuation is determination of basically the economic value of any enterprise or in business. Purpose may be different. M&A transaction will be one of the reason. Someone want to sell its business or take fund in its company. Then there may be need to change the ownership structure. There may be succession planning. Sometimes it is regulatory aspects like accounting treatment, what value we can carry in the balance sheet. So all those are the factors, and hence, but as per the purpose, valuation method and approaches may be different. So in India, regulated valuation started way back in 1957 when the Wealth Tax Act came, in which it was provided how to value unquoted equity shares, unquoted shares, and other assets. So that was first regulated valuation approach was given. Then came the concept of IPO, fixed price IPO, or at the price at which is determined by controller of capital issue, which is one of the regulator earlier, and later on it was merged with SEBI. When SEBI came in 1992, this controller of capital issue gone, and free pricing concept came. Before that, all public issue has to come at the fair value as determined as per the formula given. So that was the second regulated valuation. After SEBI's coming, there is no concept of fair valuation, or IPO can come at any value of whether or not company is valued at a set price. There is a need of giving a price band, and it is up to the investor to bid for the shares or not to bid for the shares. So that concept is now still running. Then ICSI, the CA Institute, has provided a guidelines for valuing various kind of shares. So that is another aspect which came in 94 and 99. And then in 2008, SEBI brought the fairness opinion concept for M&A transactions. So that is another, again, the regulatory intervention came. Then in 2009, Income tax also decided to put certain clauses with respect to fair valuation, and actually it is a fair price determination. If the pricing is not as per this concept, then there may be a tax implication. The concept of ESOP valuation was also introduced in income tax. Then for FDI transaction, foreign direct investment transactions, and overseas direct investment transactions, FEMA has prescribed certain valuation norms, which is mainly the discounted cash flow valuation. Further, in 2012, again, income tax valuation rules were modified and provided. In 2016, fair value standards were introduced in accounting treatment, and that is Ind AS 10113, which talks about the fair value standard for all the assets to be disclosed. Then the concept of liquidation value of assets came under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board, and the registered valuer concept has come, which is a total paradigm shift in the valuation practice, valuation of businesses. And now there is a concept in company law, under insolvency law, and mostly now under SEBI law also. All valuation has to be done by registered valuers, which are registered valuers are persons who are having certain qualifications or who are registered with Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. It is also proposed that there will be a separate regulator to monitor and regulate the valuation professionals, like similar to CA Institute, CS Institute, CW Institute. There will be a separate institute for this. So these concepts are coming, and hence Indian regulatory valuation is now prevalent fully. So what are the requirements? When is the need for valuation in any business cycle? So valuation can be based on the transactions which are voluntary, which are not mandated by any law. Like if someone is talking about M&A transaction, mergers and acquisition, then there is a need to understand what is the value at which we should dilute the share, or which shares should be issued, or buyers should buy the shares from the existing shareholder. So that is a voluntary type of valuation, but it is a commercial transaction. Then if there is a investment happening in a company, then there is a need to determine at what price investment should happen. So there is a price determination as per SEBI law in case of listed company, as per company law in case of unlisted company, and parallelly for income tax purposes. If there is a sale of business, again there is a need for any valuation to be done. Many of the disputes relating to corporate also get settled at valuation, based on valuation. So valuation again becomes very important. Then there are various regulators which have prescribed various method or fixed method, or sometimes with some flexibility method of valuation. Like in RBI talks about valuation in case of overseas direct investment or FDI, foreign direct investment into India. There is need to do the valuation. And income tax also talks about under section 56(2) various kind of transaction for which valuation need to be done. And if the value is, if the price at which allotment happens or transfer happens is different from income tax, then there is an income tax liability in the hand of the recipient of the shares, or sometimes allottee of the shares. So similarly, company law also talks about various kind of valuations. Then Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code mandates that all companies which are going into insolvency need to be valued by two registered valuers for determining their fair value as well as liquidation value. So these are a regulatory valuation. Then there are valuation requirement for financial reporting, especially for the purpose of Ind AS applicable. If the company is having Ind AS applicable, then they need to do the valuation as per. Then there is a need for purchase price allocation in case some assets are acquired under slump sale basis or otherwise. Then there may be a need for impairment or diminution in value. So that need to be valued by some valuer. Similarly, ESOPs are issued, then option pricing is required. What is the accounting treatment to be given in the books? So perquisite valuation need to be done. So basically, if we are going deep into the valuation aspects, whenever there is a fresh issue of share, it has to be valued by as per various regulators. Like in case of FDI transaction, foreign direct investment transaction, Reserve Bank prescribed method and professional need to be approached. Similarly, for registered, in case of ODI transaction, again, there is a need for valuation. Then income tax prescribes certain type of valuation for fresh issue of capital. Similarly, in company law also prescribes what is the way of what should be the fair value for allotment of shares in case it is non-cash consideration coming. Similarly, SEBI has also prescribed various valuation parameters based on the market value and in case of illiquid companies on the basis of formulas. Then if there is a business combination or scheme of arrangement, there is a valuation requirement under SEBI law, corporate law, company law, as well as for accounting financial reporting purposes. For transfer of share, again, Reserve Bank prescribes valuation parameters. Income tax also talks about the valuation parameters. ESOPs and sweat equity, which is a very common thing. Again, for that purpose, accounting treatment valuation will be different, and company law allotment purpose valuation will be different, and income tax valuation will be different. So different valuation may be there. So what are the guiding principles if we are trying to do the valuation? What principles we need to major things we need to consider? So one is the basic important aspect, which is the return on capital employed and the growth for that. If the company is growing, what should be the expectation? So return on capital employed is very critical guiding principle. And the weighted average cost of capital is also very important. So we have to determine these things very carefully whenever we are doing the valuation. Then demand supply equilibrium is a thumb rule valuation, which is very common. Whenever whatever be the price determined as per the formula given, if the demand and supply is different, if there is high demand and low supply, there will be increase in price of anything. Similarly, if there is high supply but no demand, there will be huge dip, there may be dip in the valuation. So it can be seen in the capital market. If the company's shares are liquid, you can see what is the situation. There are in past, I think it was a well reported situation, like in case of Ruchi Soya, when it was acquired by Patanjali under insolvency law, the price gone much beyond the fair valuation, several hundred times. So because the supply was very low, only 1% of the shares left in the market, and 99 was acquired by Patanjali. Similar thing happened when the Orchid Pharma was acquired by Dhanuka Group. Same happened, only 2% share remain in public float. So supply was restricted and demand was there. So the price was going skyrocketing. These are very important. Then what is the cash flow of the company? It is very important. Whether company is generating cash or not. So we have to take those in factor whenever we are carrying the valuation. If the cash flow is low and company is growing, still the company is growing, then there may be in some industry it will be treated as very negative, but in some industry it may not be. So that also depends upon the industry. Then also high growth benefit and not what's the positive cash flow essential, even though in longer run for the startups, the company, it may not be. Like in case of Zomato, Swiggy, we are seeing very high valuation, even when they are in losses. So that is because they are based on the perception that it will grow. It has very large market size. It is a capacity model is very good, well established. Lakhs of customer is already coming. So that gives perception, and based on that, valuation is moving upward. It is also very important when we are approaching to value any company or any business. What is the status of the company? And accordingly, we have to adjust various parameters and determine what method and approach should be adopted for carrying the valuation. So the method which can be adopted for a startup cannot be applied to a matured company. Like I was just discussing regarding the Zomato or Swiggy. So these are startups which have now established their model. So business model is established. Their turnover or profit may not be big, but they have a now. If we are not, let's say Zomato is not a right example right now. Even for startups which are at a just initial stage, but the model is good, then it will get much better value than any established brick and mortar companies. So region may be different. It cannot be based on the financials of the company. It has to be based on the perception about the business model and possibility of the growth and the persons who are behind them. So those factors are very important. Here the cost of capital is high because the risk factor is also high. It is said that out of 100 startups, not more than 10 succeeds in longer run. So obviously, whoever is coming to as an investor in these company, they factor in those things, and hence also expect much higher return. So if the return is high in one of the 10 entities, they can recover the losses of other 9 entities. So here the high return, high risk and high return is the concept for startup valuation. Similar thing happened in case of growth company. Here there will be certain increase in exponential increase in the profit or the turnover of the company, but the track record period will be very low. So we have to obviously use valuation methodology like sustainable business model is very important. Cash flow based discounted cash flow is a fit model in this situation. However, discount factors has to be taken in such a manner that risk is rewarded here. High growth company, it is the best best suitable business model where we can do the valuation based on our traditional methods of valuation. So here we will get track record of valuation, turnover, profit, and all those things, and cost of capital will be also reasonable. In case of mature business, again it is a decline side of the business, so the cost of capital again becomes higher. And method obviously has to be mostly discounted cash flow or comparable companies in the industry or business that can be used to determine the valuation. Again, in case of declining company, asset approach may be taken one of the way to determine the value, and replacement cost method may also be taken. Here again, the cost of capital will keep changing, keep increasing. So introduce basically valuation concepts, what are the basic concept or approaches to carry valuation of the company. So first major approaches are only three, that is income approach, asset approach, and market approach. So income approach is based on the income and profit of the company. One very common is the discounted cash flow, where a projection is made for a certain number of years, and these projections are validated, and the cost of capital is determined, and then the cash flow is discounted to bring them to the current numbers based on the NPV method. So that is the discounted cash flow. Another approach is capitalization of historical earnings. So there may be 3 years earning may be capitalized to determine the present value of the company. So these two historical capital earning ratio, capitalization of earning was used by controller of capital issue at the time of issue price determination, but now this concept is very rarely used. Then second approach is the net asset value, or adjusted net asset value, or liquidation value, which is the asset approach valuation, which determines generally the bottom line valuation, or a company which is not giving regular continuous business growth. In such situations, it is better to value the assets of the company, and based on that, valuation may be determined for any acquirer or buyer of the company. So like all insolvency companies or all closed down businesses are valued under this method. Then in case of listed companies where market value is available, then it is better to go for market value. Longer period weighted average value, market price may be determined, taken as one of the method. Or in case we are determining the market value under market approach, we want to value another unlisted company, then we take the valuation of peers, similar line business, and based on the market price movement, various market price movement and valuation of the company, various multiples are determined, like EBITDA multiple, PAT multiple, or sales multiple, and those are of the industry is applied to this company, and it is based on that valuation of the company, target company is decided. So these are the three major methods. Besides that, in some cases, thumb rule valuation is also done. Some venture capitalists generally use certain startups related other methods of valuation, like special scenario valuation, or based on market perception, their perception, what it can achieve, those things can also be determined. Then in case of ESOPs, option pricing model like Black-Scholes and binomial methods are used to determine the value of the options. So again, there, as we are discussing valuation, this is my perception or our perception. Based on that, I am saying what approach may be applied in certain cases. But there is, right now, there is no codified method of determining the valuation. Like in case of in case accounting, there is this accounting standard. In case of audit, there is auditing standard. Those are prescribed by regulators, like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. They have prescribed. Similarly, for valuation, internationally, there are various organizations which have tried to codify at what stage which methods are the best suited method, what things need to be determined at the time of applying any method, what discount or premium may be taken, how to determine the beta factors. All those things are codified worldwide in mature economies. So similar methods are now coming to India also, and we are talking about the valuation standards. So this is what is the need of the standards. Where if there is no standard, same things may be considered differently by different persons. So it is totally about the perception. Like we are talking about half full and half empty. So glass is half full. For some, it is very good, and for some, it is half empty. So it is not good. So here the concept of perception comes, and whenever we are doing something as a professional, it is better to have certain codified thing, certain guiding principles, and those are called the standards. So valuation standards are needed that way. So standards may be of two types. One is with respect to ethical standards like integrity. There should not be compromise on integrity and fairness. Then objectivity, purpose should be very clear for which purpose we are doing. Then persons who are doing the valuation should have competency, and confidentiality is also very important. Then professional behavior, professional approach should be applied. So these are the basic concept, ethical practice principles, which are international valuation standard organization has prescribed. Due care need to be done. Professional competence is very important, and the professional who is applying those methods should take good care of that thing. Then there is a need for uniformity, because now it is a global economy, world over valuations. Indian companies are going out and foreign companies are coming in. So internationally, there should be certain standard which is accepted worldwide. And if those standards are followed, then it is easier for other people to understand our valuation. So for that uniformity, it is very important that there is a standard. I think then we are talking about the profession of valuation. So registered valuer concept is coming. Earlier and till now, there are various people who are doing the valuation, like we as a merchant banker carrying various kind of valuation. Also income tax recognized valuation by merchant banker for certain transactions, specifically prescribes that merchant banker need to do the valuation. Similarly, certain agencies which are talking about the valuation by a chartered accountant with certain experience. Then there are the agents since 2016, registered valuer concept has come. So all company law valuation need to be done by a registered valuer under company law section 247, which are registered with Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. So same person, the registered valuer is also fully applied in case of Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. But all other regulators have not prescribed this. So various methods are still being used. Various valuers are also being used. So now the concept of registered valuer is coming in India, and it is proposed or in government's intent that all kind of valuations must be merged into three categories, which are the financial assets valuation, financial and securities valuation. Second is plant and machinery valuation, and third is property valuation, land and building valuation. So in these three brackets, all valuation need to be put, and the valuation must be done by registered valuer. There will be a separate regulator who will provide the code of conduct, ethical standards, standard of process of valuation, and all other regulated aspects. And all the valuers would be mandatorily registered with them. They would also prescribe certain qualification, need for regular upgradation of knowledge and all those things. So for that, the process has already started under the uh, provision of insolvency and bankruptcy board. Registered valuation organizations are there, and they are monitoring all the valuation professionals. But it is only with respect to registered valuer, and wherever the law prescribes registered valuer, this is coming. For all other purposes, it is open. So I believe that over a period of 2-3 years, all valuation works will get merged under this registered valuation organization, and all the valuer would be registered there. So there will be fair competition and there will be uniformity in approaches. So this is a good time for any new professional to pursue valuation as a business, as a practice area. So right now, what is the situation? There is a umbrella organization, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board, which has delegated the power to enroll persons with certain qualification to registered valuation organizations, and the registered valuation organization enroll members. Then there is a classroom classes of 50 hours, and whoever is ready, whoever is qualifying, they can give the exam conducted by Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, and if they pass the exam, then they will get registered as a registered valuer. So the registered valuer organization was supposed to come out with this valuation standard, but it is under work in progress, and hopefully it will come soon. So I think this is the present scenario, and slowly it will be a separate organization, not the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board. And for that, a draft law is already proposed. So I think this part I have covered in the traditional valuation aspect. Now Sanchit will take over with the challenges relating to business valuation in the present and in the post-COVID scenario. And COVID has impacted various multiples things which were generally used, methods generally applied, but they may not be valid now. So I think Sanchit will take over from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Uh, with respect to the possible industry guide and challenges, unfortunately, COVID 19 has severely shaken the global economy as well as certain industries. Many businesses may never recover, and those that have strong balance sheet will, probably go into crisis, but will never recover in the sense that they might not find the cash flow projections and future revenue outlook, which would be negatively impacted because of the weakness of their customer base. So, keeping those things in mind, we have segregated industries on a three-zone platform. Green zone, which is positively affected; yellow, which is moderately affected; and red zone, which is the most severely affected industries. So, in the green zone would be the ed tech firms, the FMCGs, the healthcare, and the pharmaceuticals, agriculture produce, digital products, everything which involves technology and can be, zoomed over online. With respect to the moderately affected, the logistics, mining, consumer good would be the industry which would be very moderately affected because of COVID. In the red zone, which is the most severely affected industries, travel, tourism, aviation, as we all can see, industries are dipping, and uh, there are problems in these industries because of the cash flow and everything. So the
Sanchit, you're not audible to some of the attendees here. Can you speak a little louder, or you could use a mic as well, I think.
uh,
Mayank, can you hear me? Am I audible to you?
is it okay?
I he can hear me but not you. So probably you could use your headphones or something like that.
Uh, just a second.
Anybody else who no? So Jatin can hear you apparently. Mayank, एक बारी try using your headphones. Alok also can hear you. I think you can continue.
Okay.
Mayank, please check your audio quality. Maybe you can use your headphones.
Okay,
Yeah.
going ahead with the most severely affected. So, travel and tourism and aviation are the most severely affected industries. However, with respect to the post-COVID effects, we have predicted, and they are accelerating exponentially chances of these industries recovering post COVID, which we will see, keeping in mind the valuation impact on them in the coming slides. So, coming to the challenges with respect to the valuation post COVID-19 would be, it has been with the COVID-19 pandemic hitting us, it has increased the focus of valuation, and all the equity and the debt holders are very keen in to understand the risks and return. The management and teams and the investor wish to take informed actions, and organizations still need reliable estimates of value to fulfill all their regulatory responsibilities. But the extraordinary volatility in the global equities and government debt yields, along with increasing debt margins, have made the process of valuation even more challenging. So, as a result, we have seen a steady stream of questions raised by clients, investors, and intermediaries as they try to, answer and address these valuation issues. Important point here is that while it is far more difficult to arrive at a value in this pandemic, it is not far from impossible. So, valuation will involve even more judgment than before, but that still can be done. With respect to the principles that should be applied in valuation in this pandemic era are twofold. Firstly, the established methodologies still apply, and the one would be assumptions should be challenged. So, stressing on the first point that the established methodologies apply, it is really important that the established methodologies like discounted cash flow and the market multiple assessment still remains the pillars in valuation tool of choice and will still apply even in these exceptional circumstances. However, what needs to be changed is the information that flows into these models and the adjustment of the market input in case of excessive volatility. For example, incorporating the cash flow scenarios representing a range of future potential outcomes, or considering normalizing multiples or risk free rates if a particular daily metric looks like out of line. We should adjust that factor. Second one would be all the assumptions that are in place for doing any valuation, whether it is voluntary or regulation, should be challenged. This is a time when all the assumption and information which is fed into the valuation model should be challenged. Reason being, uh, the management expectation doesn't fully reflect the implication of the recent event. And we have to check whether these expectations are captured in the cash flows or not. If the business has high level of debt or is burning through cash, we should check whether the valuation should be done on a going concern basis or not. If a business has short-term liquidity issues, we should check if the business is going through under any distress. Perhaps it's mostly in the travel sector. Um, is the market of buying and selling of the assets stalled? And if so, do we need any illiquidity adjustment to be made at the discount rate? So these are the factors which should be kept in mind and should be challenged at every step of the valuation. With respect to the factors which should be considered while performing the valuations are fivefold. Firstly, the purpose. So the purpose of the valuation. It is very essential that to consider the specific purpose of the valuation when deciding how much of the market volatility is to be imported into the valuation model. Second one would be the wider impact on the cash flows. The valuations need not consider only the volatility of the public market, but the wider impact of the COVID-19 on the growth rate and the margin, as well as the oil and the other commodity price movements. Third, the public market trends. A valuation shouldn't be just lavishly matched to decline in public market, nor should be the valuation be insulated from a decline by using the argument that the whole market is down because of COVID or the whole market is in distress. Individual transaction may be distressed, but the whole market rarely is. As we can see, there are many positively affected industries like pharmaceuticals and FMCGs. Keeping in mind, the fourth one is the discount rate movements. COVID-19 has somewhat created a high level of uncertainty, which typically implies a higher discount rate. If the use of the CAPM model suggests that the discount rate have fallen since the end of 2019, adjustment needs to be made onto the market inputs. Fifth would be the scenario and the sensitivity analysis. We expect to see far greater use of scenario and sensitivity analysis to take into account of all the uncertainty and the many businesses which are impacted because of the pandemic, and this calls to probably do the sensitivity analysis more than ever. The lastly would be the use of ranges. With the pandemic hitting, valuation ranges need to be wider than normal, and these ranges will be, well subject to volatility as valuations are updated over time. It is vital that this is communicated clearly to those that rely on them. In terms of financial reporting valuation, disclosures maybe need to be more detailed and may be made clear that the valuation could quickly change over a relatively short time frame, particularly if the businesses are highly leveraged. In general, these issues outlined above should be a reasonable starting point of topics to be considered while performing a valuation during this crisis. Creativity, own judgment, perceptions are practically very important in the components of valuation, particularly when the financial impact of COVID 19 continues to unfold and the third wave still being just right around the corner, and we don't even know how many waves are there. So I'd be concluding here. It seems very evident that the COVID 19 crisis has some noticeable effects on businesses. Under these circumstances, appraisers need to question critically whether and how to consider these comprehensive changes in their business valuation properly. So in this context, two major effects has to be distinguished. On the one hand, the COVID-19 crisis directly influences a company's income situation, whilst on the other hand, the crisis also leads to changes in the capital market parameters. Since any impact on the future income situation and the leverage ratio need to be evaluated on a firm-specific basis, no general conclusion can be drawn from it. The situation is quite different from the capital market parameters, however. Irregularities can be found in the base interest rate as well as the implicit market rate and the returns from the corporate bonds. While the base interest rate and the implicit market returns have already reached their previous level again, the credit spreads are still higher compared to the prior period. The market is still bouncing back. However, we should keep a critical eye on the capital market parameters, and further adjustment due to the COVID crisis could become necessary while the third wave just being around the corner. So, thank you, Masters Indias, for hosting us. You could always reach out to me on my email ID for any evaluation related advisory, and you can reach out to our website for any other services that you would require your opinion on.
Thank you, Sanchit. Thank you, Manoj sir. Manoj sir is not there, I think. Thank you for coming here and presenting your valuation expertise here. I have linked Corporate Professionals website and Masters India's website for your perusal. Sanjit, I think you can add your email ID in case anyone wants to reach you out personally, and in the chat box itself. If there are any questions that anyone wants to ask, they can redirect the questions here, or you could, or I think the presentation is over. You can download the presentation from the handout section. Aditya, do you have any questions? Anything that you want to discuss? Anything related to the valuation sector? Okay, sure. Anyone else? I don't think there are a lot of questions here this time. Hi, I think. Hi, Paranjeet. Do you have any questions, Paranjeet? I'm looking for a career in valuation. Sanjit, do you have anything to say
So,
here?
So keeping in mind that you have, I think you are trying to say that you have 7 years of experience probably in the financial modeling and valuation. Keeping in mind the broader aspects of the new registered valuer regime that is coming out, being launched by IBBI, registered value exam would be a very great starting point for you to go with the IBBI program for the RVO courses. You could always check for their eligibility, and if you do fulfill, valuation course would be something very great starting point for you here.
Alok is asking, could you say something about how debt should be adjusted for deriving EV?
So, keeping in mind the enterprise value, whenever a transaction or evaluation is to be done, debt is need to be reduced from the enterprise value, because debt actually belongs to the debt holders, and whenever we are deriving a equity value for it, debt needs to be reduced from the same.
He is asking how it should be adjusted.
For deriving the equity value, you need to reduce it from the enterprise value to come at the equity value.
Okay. Alok, is your question answered? I don't think. But I read while deriving EV, one adds the debt portion as well.
When you're deriving equity value, you need to reduce it, because the equity value belongs only to the equity holders and not to the whole enterprise as a whole.
Alok. Okay. Okay. So Alok said an okay. Anyone else who has a question here? I don't think so. If you have any questions, we dropped in our email IDs. I think Sanjit has, and I will drop mine also in case. So, Alok has another question. He's asking how EV is different from the market value. In case you can
So
answer that.
market value,
Um,
which is coming out on the listed stock exchange, is because of the demand and supply, and it is very different from how an enterprise value is derived. Enterprise value is basically a formula based value depending upon the shares and the asset and the liabilities of the company. Market value is purely perception based with respect to the demand and supply of the share in the market. So it could be different. The EV could be higher or the market value could be higher. Depends totally upon from case to case basis and company to company.
okay, Alok. Thank you so much everyone for attending the webinar. In case you want to rewatch it, we'll be uploading it on a YouTube also. You'll be getting separate mails for that, and you will be getting the handout also in case you've not been able to download it or access it. I think everyone has because we can see 100% audience clicking it, and you've downloaded the corporate professional summary also. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you Sanchit. Thank you corporate professionals, and thank you Manoj sir who's not here anymore for being such a lovely presenters.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.